Welcome to the Bourbon Friday show. We're at the end of a long week. We always take a break, try a new bourbon, and meet somebody interesting from the St. Louis startup scene. So this week I'm very excited because we're doing something a little bit different. There's a major fencing tournament in town, the U.S. Nationals, and we actually have an internationally ranked fencer, a member of the Egyptian national team, joining us today. So I'd like to welcome Mohamed Hassan to the show.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
So I want to go straight in right off the bat. I mean, obviously, we're talking a lot about fencing today. We got a couple different topics we're going to discuss. So the first thing I got to ask is, I mean, growing up as a kid, we all thought about sword fighting. I had the wiffle ball bat with my friends out in the backyard. I think fencing's probably a little more technical than that, right? So tell us, like, how does the sport of fencing work? What are the rules? How does it operate?
Okay, so, take any sword fighting you did with your siblings as a kid,
Sure.
whether it's Star Wars or Pirates of the Caribbean that you've seen on TV, and just add structure to it and rules and, a referee, just like you'd find in any other sport. So there's a lot more structure to fencing as, sword fighting.
Sure.
It's not as hectic as people think it is, or you can't do a lot of the crazy things that people would imagine, like 360 flips or whatever.
Okay, you're not doing the
No,
Star
we're not
Wars-esque,
doing. No. It's Olympic style fencing, so
Sure.
it's serious, and there's really no one messing around. People are trying to win just like you would win in any other sport.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, let's talk about the rules a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because obviously, if we think about that backyard,
Yeah.
goofing around kind of stuff, you're just kind of swinging at each other,
Yep.
right? So there's different kinds of blades, for instance, right? So tell me about that first of all.
Okay, so there's 3 different weapons.
Okay.
There's épée, saber, and foil.
Okay.
And they all have their own set of specific rules, like target area or who gets the point. If there's 2 lights, for example, in épée, if you both hit each other at the same time, each fencer receives a point. But in foil and saber, the referee has to kind of decipher what happened and then explain it to the fencers and then say that he's awarding the point to one of the fencers. You can't get a point at the same time.
Okay.
And so you're always trying to race the other fencer to the score limit. So that's kind of the differences between the weapons.
Okay.
Target area, how to score points.
Okay.
Now, in terms of what was the main topic that we were talking about? The rules and structure.
Yeah, so the next question, I guess, there's 3 different weapons, right? Does the scoring work the same for each? Obviously, you said you can touch at the same time versus not.
Yeah.
Are there certain parts of the body you have to hit? Because that's something I always think is like, okay, you swing at their hand or their leg or something, right?
So in épée, you can hit anywhere on the body.
Okay.
Anywhere on the body is permissible, and you have to thrust. You can't whack or slash.
Oh, okay.
And in all 3 weapons, the referee is always going to be there to officiate. So they're going to say, when to start, and when to finish, and when to stop, and then discipline the fencers if they get out of control.
Okay.
So it's very orderly and very any element of chaos is always eliminated in fencing, thanks to the referee, who has to be very stern. So that's épée. Saber is kind of like the cavalry sword. It's a cool one that looks, like Jack Sparrow's sword, their saber.
Sure.
And that's the one where you can slash and hit all you want.
Okay.
And the target is the upper body, so your waist and up. It's
Okay.
meant for if you're riding a horse and you were jousting, your legs are covered by mail, and and it's just your upper body's exposed. So that's saber.
Okay.
And then foil, which is kind of the creative combination of épée and saber, where you have to also stab like an épée, but the target area is just your torso.
Okay.
So no arms, no head, no legs.
Gotcha.
And so those are how they're different, and they're the same in the sense that each bout is up to a certain score limit, either 5 or 15 points, depending on the stage of the competition.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you have a specialty? Is there one in particular you like to do?
Yes, I do foil.
Foil?
The combination, the creative one. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I do
A little more
that.
interesting that way.
Yeah,
Can you do more because of that, since it's kind of a combination of the other 2? Or?
So when you fence foil, it's really easy to just try and do the other 2 for fun.
Yeah.
But it's harder for the other 2 weapons to kind of switch around, because foil is kind of a combination of saber and épée.
Okay.
But yeah, sometimes I like to mess around and put on the épée gear, the saber gear, and
Sure.
fence with my friends or my teammates in college. And it's pretty fun, all 3 of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about your background. So first of all, how did you get started in fencing?
Okay, so my dad's a coach.
Okay.
He coached the Egyptian national team to the Olympics in 2004.
Wow. Okay.
So I've always been growing up around the sport of fencing since I can remember.
Yeah.
And then we moved to the States when I was 7, and around 8 I really started to take up fencing as a real thing, as a real sport. It's something that I dedicate a lot of time to.
Okay.
And I've been doing it ever since, 13 years, and I was good enough to make the Egyptian national team at 15 and travel, across the world and across the country to fence in tournaments and compete, represent my country.
Is that common that somebody at that age is on a national team, or
in the fencing community, there's it's obviously not common.
Sure.
But it's always like a spot that people have as a goal. Everyone you compete with has the same goal, and so it's not uncommon to have people competing for that, to want to fence for more than just like, a tournament here and there.
Yeah.
Or just doing it for fun. A lot of people are, in it for the long road. So.
Sure. I mean, this is kind of basically a career, it sounds like, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're part of the Egyptian national team. You were telling me before this that you guys won the African championships recently.
Yeah. So
tell me what that was like. That
was crazy. Yeah. So the African championships was in Egypt last year in 2017, and Egypt's men's foil team, won gold in the tournament of all the African nations that were there. Which put us in a good standing to qualify for the Olympics in 2020.
Okay.
Since qualification is based on how your country does rather than how you do as an individual.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
It's your team first and then the individual.
So not every country's team gets into the Olympics.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. You have to be in the top 16 in the world, and so winning that gave us a pretty good boost so that we could stay in the running.
That's awesome. So. Tell me a little bit about the rankings and whatnot, right? Because I grew up playing soccer, and soccer, you have tournaments, things like that, but you don't really have the same sense of rankings, right? Individually, you're ranked. The teams sound like they're ranked. So how are those rankings determined? I guess just give us a basic overview of that.
So it's points.
Okay.
When you, as an individual or a team, compete in a tournament and you place, first you get the most number of points, obviously, because you won. And so you accumulate points over the tournament, the season, depending on how you do. So if you're consistently in the top 3, then you're going to be ranked in the top 3,
Okay.
So it's all about how consistent you can be and accumulate as many points as possible to be in the qualification range. So maybe for this tournament, they're taking the top 12 of the country. That's what they do for Grand Prix.
Okay.
Or top 20 for World Cups. For the Olympics, they're just going to take the top 4.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
For each country. And so to qualify for the Olympics, though, your team has to be placing high enough in the team standings so that they're in the top 16 of the world, and then your individuals qualify through that.
Okay, yeah. So that sounds very intense.
Yeah.
So we're talking, 16 teams, only 4 per country. I mean, this is very few people that get a chance to go to the Olympics. Sounds like. So, I mean, are you in position for it right now? And what's the next couple of years look like for you to get into the Olympics?
So I'm definitely in position right now to be a solid competitor for one of these 4 spots on the Egyptian team.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of guys right now, and we're all competing for those 4 spots. And I'm in a pretty good spot right now where I am. I just have to keep at it, and not take a day off to achieve my dream. But that's really how it's always going to be. You're always going to be competing with someone, so you have to just focus on yourself and
stay at the top of your game, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Cool. So I know you're also a member of the Penn State team, and you were telling me before this that Penn State has won 16 national championships.
Yep, 16 out of any.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, wow.
It's the most out of any of the collegiate schools. So it's a very strong fencing program. I'm very lucky to be a part of it.
That's amazing.
Great coaches, great teammates, and just a great experience overall at the school.
Cool. Yeah. So I wanna still talk about fencing and what you do there, but this show we're very focused on the startup community. Businesses. Obviously, a lot of the businesses here are trying to perform at the top of their game as well. So, what do you do to So you're part of this team that just won a continental championship.
Yes.
Your school wins national championships all the time. What are some of the things you do to perform at that kind of high level?
So you got to keep the engine running, and the only way to do that, in my opinion, for what's worked for me and what's worked for a lot of my teammates and people that I've been around, is sticking to a tight schedule. At school, it's every single morning, 7 to 9 a.m. practice. Have to be there. Got to be on time. Got to eat food 5 days a week. Conditioning twice a week, and so and I also have to keep focus on my studies. So the only way to do that is allocate my valuable time to things that I need to do, and everything else comes later. And so only after I've really allocated my time to my priorities and have a tight schedule so that I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it before I do it, then it keeps me on track and keeps everything just flowing the way it's supposed to.
Gotcha. Yeah. So do you have a coach that you work with? Obviously on the school team, I'm sure there's a coach.
Yeah.
Do you have somebody you work with personally as well? Or?
So at school, we have our fencing coaches, and then we also have a strength coach and, you know, a nutritionist. It's kind of like a whole team, you know.
Yeah.
Our athletics department, very fortunate to provide us with all these resources that we need to stay on top of our game. So actually here in St. Louis, individually, I used to work with a personal trainer, and then I went to school and got some experience, so I can do anything on my own now. So it's all about myself and just pushing through it.
Gotcha. So now you're a little more self-disciplined as you've gotten older.
Exactly.
A little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about, you know, when you get into the competition, right? So you get into these tournaments. Do you do anything in particular to like stay focused or get in the zone? Because, you know, one thing that stands out to me about fencing, and I think applies a little bit to business as well, is, you know, everything builds up to one specific moment, right? So you have, and I would imagine even within the match itself, you know, you got that couple seconds where you're reaching out to strike or you're trying to dodge somebody. What do you do on those days? Like, is there a routine that you go through on the day of the event that helps you get ready for being in that mindset, and how important is that? Yeah,
so I have my morning routine before the tournament. You know, I wake up and I get ready the exact same way each and every single time, you know, down to when I put my shoes on, when I put my socks on. And it's just something familiar. You know, when do I ever get ready like this? Always on the day of the tournament. So my body just, I just remember, you know,
snap right back into
exactly,
that.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's all about how you get in your zone and how you maintain, you know, focus in your zone. And that differs person to person. So everybody can definitely find their own way to get in the zone, but that's really the ultimate objective here, is to get in a way of a certain thinking, I guess, to have yourself recognize where you are, what you're doing, what your objective is.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But before we bring our favorite person, Eric, onto the show in just a minute, I want to ask you about is the tournament that's in town this weekend, right? Because that's why you're here. I know you're going to be doing a demonstration for us a little bit after the show of the actual fencing. But you're competing, and I think you said starting tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So what is the tournament that's going on here this next week?
Okay, so this is the U.S. Fencing Summer Nationals. You know, this is the biggest fencing tournament, numbers-wise, in the world. And it's right here in St. Louis. Wow. Yeah, in the world. There's no other tournament that has had this many number of fencers compete in it at once.
How many are we talking? How many are we talking?
There's like 15,000 fencers.
What? Okay.
Yeah,
that's
competing.
A lot of people.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of different events.
Yeah.
It's right down the street here. Definitely go check it out. And so this is kind of the start of the season. You know, kind of like that's why they have all these people come together so that they can all enjoy the start of the season together. And then in October the season gets into full swing. You know. But this tournament here it's huge, and it kind of kicks off the season. So
that's it. So the biggest tournament's actually what kind of starts the season as opposed to ending it?
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So if somebody wants to come check it out, where do they go? Where is it located? How, do they have to get a ticket ahead of time? What do they need to do? Okay, so it's completely free, first of all. No one has to get a ticket or anything. You can walk right in, and it's in the America Center, downtown here in St. Louis, on Washington Street. You go in, and it's not going to be very hard to locate where it is, because you're going to see people going in and out. Yeah. Just follow the fencers, and you'll be right there. Yeah, or ask around. It's very easy to get to. Okay. So, and since there's, I'm assuming, a lot of levels involved. Like if they want to see the top performers, if they want to watch you compete, is that a particular set of tournaments or competitions that you need to look for? So the highest level of fencing, if you were to sit down and look at the tournament schedule, you look for the ones that say Division 1. Okay. So that's the highest division here in the United States in terms of fencing. Is Division 1. And then there's Division 2 and 3, and then they're split up by age categories, you know, going from 20 to 8 years old. Gotcha. So the highest level, though, Division 1. You look for those times, and then you can go and see the highest level of American fencing. Very cool. All right. Well, I'm excited for it, so definitely check that out. Sounds like a cool opportunity to come see something very unique, and like I said, it's the biggest tournament in the whole world. Wow, that's pretty cool. So we're going to transition. We got a few minutes left. I'm going to bring one of our favorite people, Eric, onto the show. And Eric is, I like to say, the bourbon father himself, the creator of the Bourbon Friday event. And he's going to be telling us about the bourbon we're drinking, right?
Sure. So with Mohamed being here, I thought, and the national championships going on, I thought, well, how can you relate that? Well, I started doing a little bit of research, and turns out there is an event in Louisville called the Bourbon Open. Right?
Yeah,
fencing event, right? Right. Part of it. That's awesome. One of the main sponsors is Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman makes Old Forest. Okay. I thought they support fencing, let's support Brown-Forman. Oh. So in addition to that, this is 1897, which is the same year as the year of the Bottle and Bond Act, which is one of the first regulations. But missed it by 1 year. Also, the start of the modern Olympics, of which fencing has been a part the entire time. the entire time.
Wow.
Then finally, world-class fencer, championship fencer. This had, in 2016, won the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. It's a gold.
Really?
World-class bourbon championship.
There you go. Good bourbon for great
It's pretty
people,
neat
right?
how that came together. Yeah.
Yeah. The only unfortunate thing here is since you're competing tomorrow, you probably shouldn't be drinking
Yeah,
bourbon
yeah,
tonight, right?
I'll
Don't want to be
unfortunately stay
hungover
away.
for a national level competition.
Yeah,
right?
I gotta get ready.
Well, so I want to take our last couple minutes here and talk about a specific thing. And what I thought we could talk about this week, because I think this is something that, especially Olympic level athletes probably have a ton of focus on. And that is, how do you perform at those high levels? And in particular, what part does routine play in that? Because that's something I've been focused on a lot. It sounds like that's something you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Is you have a consistent, I would imagine, weekly routine. You have a routine for when you get to those events.
Right.
So how important is having a routine to being able to perform at that kind of level, do you think?
So I think it's one of the most important things. It's very fundamental to achieving anything you'd like to achieve. And really the only way to stick to one's routine after one has made it is to kind of put yourself on a treadmill with your goal right in front of you, and it's as if you're sprinting 100 miles per hour. You always have to have your goals set and remember why you're getting up in the morning, why you're going to practice, why you're going to the gym, and struggling, and why you're pushing yourself so hard. And it's ultimately because of your goal, and that'll carry you through your routine. And and again, with your routine, you really divvy up your day down to the minute or to the hour to stay on top of that level.
Do you have like a schedule that's written out that you're following consistently?
Yes,
Yeah?
I have a schedule. I keep it in a notebook. You can get a planner. I used to do it on my iPad, but then I started having problems. So I write down my schedule and my goals as well, and how I'm going to achieve them in steps, and then I put my time towards doing that, and then that's how I make my schedule.
That's awesome. So do you have something that you're doing to remind yourself of that goal consistently, or is it just so ingrained at this point that
it's always in my when I go somewhere, I ask myself, why am I here? And so and then when you ask yourself why, you can always think of your goals and why am I doing whatever it is I'm doing. Oh, it's for this. Always keep it in your head, and you think about it enough, and it'll always just be there. It'll never go away if you think about it enough.
Yeah.
So
it takes a lot of discipline, obviously, to consistently do that. But
right.
I think, one thing I've noticed, I've been kind of recently getting more obsessed with the idea of habits, right? And the routine is kind of a habit, same thing, right? And what I think a lot of people maybe miss when they're frustrated and we're trying to figure these things out is that, once you get in the habit, it actually becomes almost hard not to do that thing anymore.
Exactly.
Right? So do you feel like you've gotten to that point where now if you're not doing your normal routine, do you feel weird?
Oh yeah, I feel very weird, and I've had to learn some of this the hard way.
Yeah.
If I deviate from my routine, I ended up paying for it later.
Of course.
So so that was kind of an incentive for me to stay focused and to never stray away from routines. Sure. Obviously, every day every once in a while you need a break to keep your sanity. Yeah. But when it's time to go, it's time to go, and that's really when you gotta just strap down and get your head down and just grind. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Eric, I know in your case, you do a lot of computer coding, right? And I would imagine focus is important there. Do you have any kind of routines you go through here?
There's a few different things that I do. One, I try to eliminate distractions a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Even down to like what I wear every day is pretty much the same thing. It's always the same thing. Always Converse, always Lucky Jeans, that kind of thing. So I try and eliminate that. So I literally call it my uniform for the day. Nobody really knows that. Another thing I think of is, let's set your day up for a win. Go ahead and make your bed. So make your bed. You come back home that night. You're reminded of, I already did that.
Yeah.
A thing I've recently started doing is working with my marketing communications manager. And every day, at the end of the day, we have a meeting, and I just discuss everything that we have going on, and that way, everything is still top of mind every day.
Yeah, right. That's great. Yeah. So if you're watching, first of all, keep an eye on Eric's clothes the next couple weeks and see if it changes when he's on the show.
Call him out.
But I think the big takeaway here is that the idea of routine and habit is crucial. I mean, do you know any fencers that don't follow that kind of pattern, that don't have routines, or is there anybody out there that just kind of wings it and still does well?
at a certain level, I don't think you can wing it and do
Yeah.
well. And it's all about which level you're comfortable being at and which level you want to be at. And so I want to be at the level where I can't, deviate and
Yeah.
and just get away with it, every time. So
Cool. All right. Well, it's a good lesson to learn. So it's a big takeaway from today, I think, is stick to that routine.
For sure.
And, you'll make gradual progress, right? That's
of
the
course,
important thing.
yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I just saw the pizza come through, right? So
Oh,
that
that's
means
exciting.
the show has to end so that I can get pizza before everybody else eats it.
I agree.
So for those of you that are watching, I do want to let you know we are taking a couple weeks off. The holidays next week. Following week, we're going to be busy as well. But 3 weeks. We'll be back on in 3 weeks. So the next 2 weeks, we are not here. However, if you would like to attend the Bourbon Friday event, that will still be happening. So the next 2 Fridays, come on down to T-Rex. Join us about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We go till 7 every week. And then 3 weeks from today, we will be live again here at 4:30 on Friday for the Bourbon Friday show. We hope you join us again then.